Good evening, boxing fans, and welcome to Enter the Ring Live for Sunday, October 3rd, 2021, with your hosts, Mighty Mike, AJ. Hello. What happened? I lost AJ. How you doing, everybody? It's Mighty Mike here. We are live. AJ will be joining us again shortly. We had obviously some kind of little glitch again with our system. It is no, I'm sorry. What did I say? Saturday. It is Sunday, October the 3rd, 2021. AJ's back.
You know what? I got to say something right now.
What?
And
what is it
okay, so look at I've done absolutely nothing different.
So what do you do when you switch over to live? It kicks you off.
For some reason, it's been kicking me off. I've gone through numerous things. I was watching this video that wasn't on YouTube because it was banned, and it was talking about how certain formats, how certain things out there for whatever reason. It's not like we're huge or nothing, but you just kind of get these bad things. I've done everything with the frames, and I mean, I don't know what's going on, but I mean, it wasn't a total debacle. But what's going on, my brother?
What's going on, man? Happy Sunday.
Yeah, happy Sunday.
How's the weekend so far?
It's going pretty good, man. It's been really hot, man. How hot is it out there where you're at?
Well, I was in Arizona Friday to Saturday. I flew back yesterday. It was hot here, 95 today. I was out showing homes, in Chino area, and then on Ontario. It's like 95 degrees today.
Oh man, it was really
I don't know.
hot.
They said it might cool down a little bit later in the week, but
that's something we got to talk about. Big win for Robert Alcazar's young prodigy, Rene Moreno Jr.
Yes, I guess we'll go ahead and get started with that. Rene Moreno Jr. We went out to Arizona, flew out there. Well, they got out there earlier in the week. Rene was added to the card, the Del Sol Boxing Promotions, which is a local promotion out there in Arizona. The guy does a pretty good job. The main event was Ray Beltran versus I forgot the guy's name he fought. Good fight though, very competitive. I mean, he was a very competitive fight for 6 rounds, and then Beltran just got the better of him and ended up stopping him after 6 rounds. He didn't answer the bell for the 7th.
Beltran's still a beast, ain't
he? Here's a crazy thing. I'm looking at his record, right? Okay, I saw him. I was talking to him briefly, backstage in the dressing room before the fight. I mean, he was the main event, so he was just there in plain clothes, just sitting and relaxing. And then I proceeded to go down and look at his box rec again. And I go, this guy 2 fights ago, right? 2 fights ago, he was fighting on the main event on ESPN. For Top Rank, where he lost his title to Richard Comey.
Yeah.
Right. And then he had a fight scheduled a few months ago on this same promotion, and the fighter, something happened with the fighter. He didn't clear medicals or something like that. So that fight was postponed. So anyways, Ray fought. And I got to say, man, he fought a tall, tough kid, and Beltran's movement was really good. I was thinking, where was that movement when he fought Comey? Because he fought a guy that was similar size than Comey, just tall, lanky guy, but a good like boxer puncher, and Ray was moving well. He got hit a couple of times in like the 4th or 5th round, but I mean, those first few rounds, man, he was moving his head, and he was right on the ropes, and the guy was coming and coming hard, and Ray was he just knew how to avoid those punches, and then he would fire back. Great fight.
That's
Michael
awesome,
Harbajal
man.
was in attendance. The Ramos brothers, Abel Ramos and Jesus Ramos, who both fight for PBC, were there.
Abel coming off of a huge victory over Omar Figueroa. And
then the younger brother, Ramos, the nephew. I'm sorry, that's his nephew. That's his uncle. So the nephew, and I didn't know this. This was after the fights. We were there taking pictures and stuff, and I didn't know how well Robert knew all of them. He's known that whole family for years, and we all sat there. I'm talking a good 10, 15 minutes, and they were in a big old circle, everybody just talking and stuff. And I didn't know that Robert knew the family. All the other brothers and uncles were all fighters, and Robert knew them for years. He's known them since they were all kids. But anyways, Rene Moreno wins by first round TKO. What was it, 146 of the first round?
146 of the first round.
146 of the first round. Stopped that kid with a body shot. I mean, Rene he could have went 6-8 rounds and looked phenomenal, but obviously got the guy out there and won. The guy was tough, 2-0 with 2 knockouts, and he was coming to win. He wasn't coming there to lay down. He's the local kid from Arizona. Rene was what would you say, like the outsider coming in?
Exactly.
But
I'll tell you what I was impressed with was you saw the kid Rivas, you saw his mentality going, into the fight. He's, his 2 previous victories, obviously coming in at 2-0 with 2 knockouts. Both fights ended in the first round. He was going to try to jump on Rene early and try to stop. Yeah. And Rene never lost composure. He got hit a couple of times and stuff. Yeah. This kid was savvy. I mean, you could tell he was well schooled. He moved well and everything. but that body shot that Renee set up perfectly. Max Castro said it best. He set that up and bam.
Yeah, that's right. Max was there, Sharky was there, Adrian Servine, and then Michael Nerado couldn't make the trip. He's back at home, but it was a good win, man.
Unfortunate about Max, his fight falling through. I was really excited to see him back in action.
Yeah. So long story short, Maximus, his opponent, came in 4.5 pounds over. He was given an hour to make the weight and couldn't make the weight. And I don't know if the guy really intended to make the weight, but that's just speculation. But Max, he had a hard training camp and he was fully prepared. Either way, Max is young. He'll be back. I believe the next promotion, I believe, is supposed to be in November. So he possibly will be back. I know that Renee, in speaking to him, I know they're going to try to get on that Munguia card November 13th here in Anaheim. And as
that's a great prequel. Why don't we go ahead and go right into that, man? Let's talk about it.
Yeah, we'll segue into that. So Renee, for people that probably do or do not know, Renee and Jaime Munguia, very good friends. Munguia, obviously, if he wasn't in camp right now, would have probably been at the fight on Friday, but he's up in the mountains of Mexico City training for the Rosado fight. So let's talk about that. November 13th, right here locally. I love it because we're going to be able to go. Jaime Munguia is going to take on Gabe Rosado at 160 pounds. We all know Rosado's coming off that big, I guess you would call it like a shocking win, or even though Beck the Bully was technically a prospect, he was a highly regarded prospect, an amateur standout, just bulldozing and steaming. I mean, just knocking people over. He was actually going through Rosado in that first round, and Rosado just timed him and caught him with the perfect right hand and just ended the fight with one punch.
Well, I tell you, it's hard not to like Rosado.
I love Rosado. I like Gabe Rosado. And
the thing is that, you got to give Rosado a lot of credit for making this fight happen with Munguia. It's a very exciting fight. You don't have to sell this fight based on what Gabe Rosado's done with his controversial decision loss to Danny Jacobs. The fight even before that, his near miss against Selecki, and then also obviously his stunning victory, one punch knockout of Beck the Bully, but the thing that is kind of like right in your face is Beck the Bully, Daniel Jacobs, and Selecki are not Jaime Munguia. In all three of those fights, Rosado was hurt to one particular part of his body. I mean, one particular part, that was his body. Something that Munguia is really, really well schooled at.
Body punching.
Exactly. I don't see there being any animosity. They've never been the type of guys to talk shit to their opponents and stuff. But this is going to be a war. Rosado's not going to go in there and just lay down.
Oh no, Rosado's coming to win, man. I mean, Rosado feels rejuvenated, partly because of that great performance against Danny Jacobson, which I honestly thought he won the fight. It was a very close fight, but I thought he pulled it out. I thought he boxed beautifully and surprised a lot of people with his boxing ability, because Gabe's always been known for like a blood and guts kind of like a warrior.
Which he wasn't in the beginning of his career. He was more of a boxer, and then he kind of turned into a brawler.
And I think it's because of the opponent selection. He was fighting guys like Triple G, just guys that
David Lemieux, all these guys.
Yeah, David Lemieux, guys that were just bangers. I expect Jaime to win this fight. But I do expect Rosado to have his moments, and there may be a point in this fight where he might catch Jaime and maybe rock Jaime a little bit, but we'll see how Rosado does coming back down to 160 from the 168 pounds. Because I think he's physically a pretty good sized guy too. I met Gabe Rosado one time. I was walking I
did too.
Yeah, I was walking to Hollywood, and he was there with his girlfriend at the time. I don't know if it was girlfriend or wife.
But he's not Jaime's size.
He's not as tall, but he's thick though. He's thick.
But I think it's something that, and by the way, Eric the Reds won't be in today and stuff like this, our big fight predictor. But Eric had said something previously about Jaime. He said that Jaime's just barely starting to grow into his man strength.
Yeah.
Now, Gabe's obviously been at the twilight of he's on the twilight days. I mean, you can say whatever you want. He's on this nice roll, which I'm so happy for the guy. But Jaime's yet to really get into his man strength. But as of late, from his training camp and what I've seen, it looks like Jaime might have just walked into that a bit. So you may be looking at a different Munguia. You saw shades of that in his last fight. I think the biggest obstacle that Rosado's going to face is just the length of Jaime. Even though Jaime sometimes doesn't fight like a long fighter, Lately, he has. He's thrown his punches from longer range. He's throwing in combinations, something that Gabe's not used to. If you look at guys like Beck the Bully, it's like these guys don't throw in combinations. It's one punch at a time. Jaime's coming in with strong punches. The body punches, I think, is what's going to be the key, which is going to hurt Rosado. I don't see Rosado having an answer. He doesn't want to engage. I know people are like, when Jaime fought against Spike O'Sullivan, he got caught, and right away Sergio Mora got a hard on, was right away like, oh, Munguia's hurt. No, he wasn't hurt. Okay. Hurt is when you wobble back to your thing. Jaime kind of took a swap to thing and never even took a backward step. So
he got caught with like the picture perfect right hand and withstood it.
Yeah. So against a guy who's a puncher in Spike O'Sullivan. So I mean, the thing is, like I said, you gotta love Rosado, but it shows a lot of where Jaime's at in the game. If Rosado's saying, hey, listen, if I win this fight, I put myself in the record books. This is an epic win. That shows you how highly he regards Jaime Munguia.
Yeah, and here the difference between Jaime and guys like Beck the Bully, where I don't see him falling prey to that same counter, right? Is I think Jaime's more calculated in his attack now. A lot of people say, oh, he was reckless and he was getting hit a lot. That was at a lower weight where he physically was just bigger than most of the guys at 154, right? So he kind of felt like these guys can't hurt me. I'm going to be reckless. He's been more defensive minded since he moved up in weight. He has. I mean, his fight against the last guy he fought, was it Sulecki?
No. Yeah, was it Sulecki? No, it wasn't Sulecki.
Oh, he was supposed to, and then he backed out of the fight. It was the other
Triple G, the guy who fought Triple G.
Got it. I don't know why it's escaping me.
It's okay, I'll get it right now.
Either way, though, and then his fight against Turiano Johnson, right? I mean, he was taking some punches, but it was mostly because Turiano Johnson was just had his foot on the gas and was just coming. I don't think Rosado's going to do that. I don't think Rosado's going to hold up. I think Rosado's going to his face is going to start getting marked up, cut up. And I think Munguia stops him late. I do. I think it goes at least 6 rounds. I think Munguia is going to get him out of there somewhere between 8 and 10 rounds. I really do. I think that youth and that strength and is going to just overwhelm Rosado.
It was Sarah Menza
that's right. Sarah Menza.
You have a lot more faith. Like I said, I love Gabe Rosado, but you got a lot more faith in Gabe Rosado. I don't think Gabe's going to be able to. I don't think he realizes how physically strong. One of the things that I saw in interviews, and they were talking to guys like Sarah Menza, they were trying to compare the strength of Munguia. Right away, they were trying to flip the script like, well, Triple G knocked you down, but Munguia didn't. But he said Munguia's physical strength, he underestimated it. You know what I'm saying? Just the way in which he delivers the punches were just stunning. And the thing is, a guy like Turiano Johnson, there's always a lot of ridicule on Munguia's side. I don't know why.
Munguia's got a lot of haters, and I don't know why.
I'll tell you why. Because usually the guy who people know eventually is going to be the man. They're going to do everything to try to trip him up because they want, in Munguia's situation, I'm tired of hearing, Munguia doesn't want Andrade. If they sign the contract tomorrow, Munguia's stepping with Andrade. I don't want to even discuss Andrade's situation. The Charlos won't mention his name. Triple G's already had his opportunity against Munguia and let that go out the window. It's I don't want to hear this stuff.
Triple G did not want Munguia. He wanted Munguia 3-4 years ago when he was a 20-year-old kid coming from TJ.
You said it best, bro. He doesn't want to. What did you say? He didn't want to cross the street or something like that, or
I don't. Yeah, something like that.
But getting back, like I was saying, like with Munguia, he's a guy that, like I said, I mean, you saw it in his last thing. I know people talk about, his defensive skills, but you're absolutely right. When we say defensive minded, we're not talking Floyd Mayweather style. He still has a very large output, but he was moving his head much better. Munguia is a very well-schooled fighter. The training in which he's had with guys like Robert Alcazar, now he's with Eric Morales. You could see it in Munguia. He has flashes of brilliance when he's able to move and the things that he does. Mm-hmm. The thing about Munguia is, and you saw it in the Turiano Johnson fight, you saw it in the Spike O'Sullivan fight, and you saw it in the Sarah Menza fight. Munguia gets a chip on his shoulder, and you do something to piss Munguia off. As soon as he starts pounding his chest, he comes at you. He did it against Anoa'i, so.
Yeah, and Jaime's very disciplined trainer when he trained. I've seen it. You've seen it. We were talking about it on Friday too. We were talking about Munguia with some other guys there because they all knew that Robert trained him. They were talking to us about him, and then that's the one common that's the one common theme everybody said is the way he trains. He doesn't take days off. He doesn't half-ass it or grab ass. When he gets to the gym, he trains and he trains and he trains and he trains. And he's out there, up there, like I said, up there in the mountains of north of Mexico City, training and running and chopping wood and everything. So I'm excited for that fight, November 13th, and Anaheim Honda Center, formerly the Pond. We've been to a lot of events there. We've seen a lot of fights there. We've been to a lot of football games there.
A lot of we
arena games.
We played on that field. We played on that field.
Did we?
Oh no, that was a Staples Center. Yeah.
Staples Center.
Getting back real quick on McGee, just one other point. I know there's been a lot of, plus and negative talk about Munguia's choice when the trainer change happened from famed legendary trainer Robert Alcazar to Eric Morales,
who's unproven as a trainer.
He's unproven as a trainer.
He was a world-class champion, Hall of Famer.
I will say one thing that I've noticed with Munguia right now, Morales, the one thing I know Morales will install in any fighter that he works with is that non-stop, ferocious attack that Morales was known for. Go back and look at his wars against Barrera, all of these people, his wars with Pacquiao.
Manny Pacquiao.
This is a guy who taught his fighters, your best defense is a ferocious offense. And you've already seen this. You saw it in the Spike O'Sullivan fight when he hurt Spike O'Sullivan. You saw it in the Sarah Menza. If Jaime smells blood, it's like a shark hungry for lunch, man. He's sinking in there.
All right, let's go ahead and jump into let's do this. Let's talk about the fights that's not going to happen tomorrow. That was supposed to take place tomorrow. That was rescheduled 4 or 5 different times. Yeah. We're calling it the Triller debacle. Apparently, the fight with Teofimo Lopez and George Kambosos is over. It's done. It's been scrapped. Triller has said that they've lost $10 million in publicity, wasted effort to make that fight. To me, this is one of the, outside of a fight and like a robbery fight, this is one of the biggest injustices in boxing that's taken place outside the ring. George Kambosos was the guy, right? Whether or not you'd agree with this decision against Lee Selby or not, which I did not believe he beat Selby. I thought Selby edged it, but I could see a case for Kambosos. Either way, that's neither here nor there. He got the decision. He got the victory. He earned his shot. He mandatory for these titles. And I don't think Teofimo had any intention of going through with this fight after that first training camp. Nope. After the stories of him getting dropped, knocked out, beat up, looking lackluster in training, all the while Kambosos is training like a madman. He's there in Miami training, acclimated to the weather, because remember the fight was originally supposed to take place at Hard Rock Stadium, right? The outdoor NFL venue where the Miami Dolphins play. Yep. Anyways, I don't think Teofimo had any intention of going through with this fight. He faked COVID. Everybody knows he faked COVID. There was apparently there's still no written documentation that proves he had COVID, because shortly after he supposedly tested positive and was sick, he was seen partying with Edgar Berlanga in Miami. Wow. And then apparently he goes to Italy with his wife. He's in Italy.
You can't get on a plane if you got COVID.
I'm telling you, man, this whole thing stinks to high heaven.
Well, I'm sure
reschedule.
There's going to be some litigations.
He needs to be stripped of those belts. Yeah. He has been a complete embarrassment as a world champion. I did not agree with his victory over Lomachenko, but either way, he on paper, he's the winner. He was the champion. He's not undisputed because he only has 3 of the 4 belts, but he does not bode himself well as a champion. To me, he's a weak-minded individual. He's a joke. He's the biggest joke in boxing right now. Well, he's honestly, an absolute biggest joke in boxing.
What's the old world saying that they always say? If you haven't earned something, you never respect it, you don't cherish it. Or if you didn't earn it, you know what I'm saying? That the best things in life are the things that you earn. We all know Teofimo didn't earn that title against Lomachenko. It was handed over on a silver platter because for some reason Lomachenko decided not to do anything for the first 6 rounds. When he figured out that Teofimo wasn't who he thought he was, he decided to turn it on.
You know what's funny? I've watched that fight a couple of times, and I got to say this: everybody says that, but if you go back and you watch the 6th round, Lomachenko won this 6th round. He lost the first 5 rounds strictly because of non-activity. He wasn't getting hit that much, but you can't win a round without throwing punches.
That's all I said.
He wins the 6th round. He wins the 7th round, 8th round, 9th round, 10th round, 11th round, 12th round. He may have Teofimo may have edged it late, stole the round.
But
right?
But Lomachenko
so what is
had
that?
Close to almost a 10-8 round in the 11th round.
And 10th round.
The 10th round, yeah. But I mean, the point is Lopez is given this nod. He's got this, like I said on my podcast earlier today.
He totally shit on it.
I mean, just it's like, earning this gold ticket, you just tear it up. He hasn't fought since December of last year. I'm sorry, October of last year, October 10th, when he got the controversial victory over Vasily Lomachenko. And he just, the only times I see him in the news is when there's problems with his family, because of his new bride. There's always this
running his mouth about Devin Haney or any of the other lightweights out there, Ryan Garcia, or he's always palling around with the other complete joke of the 135-pound division, Rolly Romero.
Yeah, and the thing is, I made the point too. I was never overly impressed with Kambosos' previous opponents and his previous performances.
Me neither.
But this is a new fight, a new opponent, and Teofimo got under Kambosos' skin. And like I said on my podcast earlier today, you're possibly going to see the best version of George Kambosos. I think Teofimo people knew it. I think they underestimated his determination.
Like we said a couple weeks ago, it's not about the styles; it's about the timing. Exactly. And Kambosos was peaking, ready to go. It's not his fault. He should not be held responsible or punished because the champion in the equation didn't decide to train properly, protect himself, really get up for the fight. It's not his fault. They should take those titles from Lopez and hand them to Kambosos. Or at least they should. I'm sorry, they should. Well, so what's going to happen now? Where do they go?
The fight's dead. Obviously, Trilla's lost $10.5 million. And
what is that? What does Kambosos do now?
Honestly, this is what I said in my podcast earlier today. Kambosos, to me, just lets it go. Just says, you know what? That's it. Kambosos' biggest thing he needs to do right now is get back in the ring. I don't care with who. He needs to get back in the ring. It's been almost a year since he's fought. So he needs to get back in the ring and reestablish himself too. And not wait for Teofimo, because we don't know Teofimo what's going on.
Teofimo is never going to fight him. If I was George Kambosos, I would tie his ass up in litigation from now to the end of time. Until he gets his ass in the ring, I would tie him up in so much goddamn litigation. I would spend every penny on the most high.
Kambosos is the mandatory.
So what I'm saying. He can't just walk away. And even taking another fight in the interim, I wouldn't advise that. I mean, obviously you want activity and you want to fight. You don't want to train for a year and not fight, but if God forbid he trips up and something happens, and then Teofimo gets the last laugh, I don't have to fight this guy now because he lost or whatever.
I'll tell you what I think is going to happen, and I think you got this on your mind too.
I'd find his ass on the streets and I'd break his jaw. That's what I would do if I was Kambosos.
I think Teofimo is going to get stripped by 1, 2, or all the organizations. I think Teofimo is going to basically say, for non-compliance, he's not going to manage. He's not going to do this thing. He's just going to say it's too much of a mess. He's going to walk away from those titles thinking he's going to be able to skate right back in, take on whoever Kambosos wins or loses against. You know what I'm
saying? And Lopez has no desire to fight Lomachenko in a rematch.
No.
He has no desire at all. I read something just today on Boxing Scene.
I was going to tell you something too. I just read something too.
Where he's now calling for a catchweight fight against Josh Taylor, a catchweight between 135 and 140 for both undisputed. And if I was Josh Taylor, I would tell this kid, who the F do you think you are, you punk ass? You have one credible win on your resume that was questionable, and you're going to call me out at a catchweight? I'd give him the biggest, fattest Scottish middle finger that you could ever imagine.
Josh and say,
you're beneath me. You're a punk. You're a chump. There's nothing in it for him to fight. I'd say, okay, I'll fight you. You're coming to Scotland. You're coming to Edinburgh, and you're fighting at my weight, 140. You want to crack at me? I'm the man at 140. Josh Taylor's the man. There's nothing you can say. He won all 4 belts legitimately. Absolutely. Yes, the fight with Prograis was a very close, tough fight. The same Regis Prograis who Mikey Garcia just bitched out and made every excuse in the book to not fight Regis Prograis. And Regis Prograis, you could see it. It's on the tip of his tongue. He wants to say it, but because he's now fighting on the PBC platform, he's got to bite his tongue. He's got to bite his lip and not say anything. So Regis Prograis is no pushover. Regis Prograis knocks Teofimo Lopez out.
I think Regis Prograis, to me, has the advantage if he gets a rematch against Josh Taylor. I think Regis Prograis goes back and watches what he did wrong in that fight. I don't want to rehash that fight, but that fight could have went either way. To be honest,
it could have went either way. But I think Josh Taylor is getting better. He in that unification fight, against Jose Ramirez, he was on another level. He was on another level entirely.
Yeah.
He's a southpaw. He's slick. He's tall. He's strong. He's young. I would love to see Teofimo take an ass whipping from Josh Taylor, but Josh Taylor doesn't have to kowtow to a punk who's never done anything, right? Taylor is a legitimate, undisputed 140-pound champion.
Yeah,
right. Teofimo is not. They are not on the same level. One's the A side, one's the C- side.
I absolutely agree. And the thing is too, talking about, like I said, like with Josh Taylor and stuff, has there been any talks about when he's getting back in the ring?
Yeah, the fight's signed. He's fighting Jack Catterall in Scotland. The number one contender, though. Catterall's undefeated and he's the mandatory.
Yeah.
And Josh Taylor deserves a fight in Scotland. He's been fighting abroad. He's fought over the.
But after that fight, after he destroys Catterall, which he should do, beats this guy.
Catterall's tough. It's going to be a good fight.
I would love to see a rematch with Prograis, or possibly a matchup with Chon Zepeda. It's got to be one of these ones. I don't want to see some
it very well could be Chon Zepeda. Chon Zepeda's got a fight coming up around the same time that was just signed against the Puerto Rican kid Vargas.
It's one thing to do the work and get the titles. It's another thing to hold on to them and actually earn the respect of the people that are thinking that you belong on top. Josh Taylor belongs on top because he earned it the hard way, one fight at a time. Okay.
And listen, in his first defense is not a soft touch. This guy's an undefeated mandatory. He's tough. Yeah,
but Catterall, you look at his ring resume. I've seen the guy fight about 4 times. It should be easy pickings for
but it isn't like it isn't like he's fighting some guy with 3 losses on his record. He's coming off of a loss or something. He's fighting a guy that's peaking, that's undefeated, that's young. Yeah, is this maybe a little too soon, too much too soon for Catterall? Possibly. Maybe another 1 or 2 fights. But hey, they think that they have what it takes to go in there and beat Josh Taylor. I don't think it's going to happen. I think Taylor stops him or dominates him in the decision. But I mean, you really can't knock the guy. Let the guy have a fight at home. I think he's earned it. They're gonna fight at the Edinburgh Castle. They're gonna get probably 30,000 people there. Let him get it, and then let him come back across the pond. And as much respect as I have for Josh Taylor, I think he fights someone like Chon Zepeda, and I think Chon gets him. I think Chon, the third time will be a charm, and I think Chon will get him.
Well, the thing is, I look at it as this:
what I don't want to see I don't want to see a rematch against Ramirez or even Prograis without Zepeda getting a shot, because Zepeda has been biding his time. He's been the mandatory now for 2 years now, all through COVID, and they just keep throwing roadblock after roadblock after roadblock, trying to trip him up. They're doing it again with this undefeated Puerto Rican.
Well, I look at it this way: Zepeda's got, to me, he's got all the advantages in a lot of ways. I mean, he's a slick boxer like Taylor himself, but he possesses something that Taylor doesn't have, and that's that one-hitter quitter.
He does have a one-punch power.
Taylor has shown to be a little chinny. You know what I'm saying? He got hurt in the Prograis fight. He was hurt in the Ramirez fight, briefly and stuff. So Zepeda's been hurt, but you've never really seen Zepeda, even in his fight against Baranchak when he got knocked down. You never saw Zepeda wobbly legged. It was just kind of like from the brute force of Baranchak.
Well, he told me, he admitted to me, one of the punches he was a little stunned because he just caught perfect coming in with his hands down and he got hit. And that one he was like, whoa, just for half a second, he was a little bit dazed and he got up and composed himself. So, but yeah, you're right. Chon is the harder puncher of the two.
Absolutely.
And he's a slick southpaw with 30. What has he got? 33 fights now, Zepeda?
My dream matchups would be Zepeda go on to a great fight against Josh Taylor, get the victory, and then fight Regis Prograis in his first title defense. Wow. You can't write him any better than that.
Yeah, that'd be a great fight. That'd be a real good fight. So that fight's taking place. Okay, we kind of started to digress a little bit, but the Triller fight obviously is not taking place now. I guess we'll know more in the days to come if that fight's going to try to be rescheduled on a different platform, if it's going to be on maybe ESPN, Top Rank's if it goes back to Purse Bid and DAZN gets it or whoever, we don't know. But I do not believe it's fair that Kambosos just walks away. I do not. I would tie Lopez up in so much goddamn litigation that he would just. They force him to get into the ring and fight the fight.
Well, I think Lopez has got bigger issues because he canceled so many of those dates, and he's the one who's pretty much responsible for a lot of the loss that this company Trilla has endured. He's looking at a slew of lawsuits. This guy is career is really going to be caught up, and if Kambosos adds to that fire, Teofimo Lopez is in trouble in a lot of ways. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, it's going to get to the point to where he's going to have to make some desperate decisions here real soon. Because when you look at the lightweight picture right now, you got Teofimo Lopez at number 1. Vasily Lomachenko, who doesn't hold any of the belts, is obviously the number 1 contender. And then you got Joe Diaz, who's right there. You got, Richard Comey. I don't know why he's even still in there. Devin Haney. we all saw what Devin Haney was about. You know, he's chinny. Then you got Kambosos, Lee Selby, Ryan Garcia rounded out. I mean, it's not a hotbed
right now. It's not like 140. 140's got some killers up there. 5 pounds north, you got killers, man. Prograde.
Well, that's why Teofimo's so happy here. He could talk a big talk, but eventually he's going to have to face one of these guys that are on more on the upside of their career rather than the downside of their career, like he's so used to trying to fight. He thought Lomachenko was on the downside of his career. And I guarantee Teofimo has nightmares every night after watching that, what Lomachenko dismantled Nakatani with such ease.
Well, that's right away why he's refusing the rematch, and even talks of it. It's almost like he's just brushing it off. He scoffs at it, where his father was in attendance and was under the gun and had to basically face the music and say, yeah, you know, hey, Lomachenko looked impressive tonight. We'll give him the rematch. But then, you know, once again, they get back in behind closed doors, and maybe he just did that to save face.
Oh, of course he did.
To save face.
Let's
jump to the fights that's taken place this. Well, I tell you what. You want to save the fight, this Saturday's fight, for the last, and let's talk about another fight that was signed. Yeah. Let's talk about a fight that was just signed about a week ago. Very excited about this one as well. Tim Tszyu in the act of staying busy once again, because of Australia's under some major COVID restriction lockdown right now, and the traveling back and forth across the pond is not. It's very difficult. He is elected to take on Inoue. How do I say his first name?
Tachiyoshi
Inoue, who's a very sturdy, strong 154-pounder, lone defeat coming at the hands of a decision loss to Jaime Munguia, where he gave Munguia all he could handle for 12 rounds. Yeah. In Houston. I was there. I was in the second row for that fight, and that kid was a brick shithouse. I stood next to him in the dressing room. I could not believe how big that kid, that in a way was like a little bodybuilder. He was rock solid. And Jaime did everything in his power to get that kid out of there, and he just kept coming and kept coming and kept coming.
Yeah, the kid was, when they talked about, you know, he was like a bigger version of the monster, meaning, and we're talking about the monster in a way from in the lighter weights. That's exactly what he did. His only problem in that fight with Munguia was Munguia. Munguia refused to lose, in a sense. I was at my daughter's homecoming dance, and I remember I kind of felt like a bad dad because I'm over here dancing on the dance floor and I'm watching the fight from my phone the whole time. I'm going crazy and I'm talking, you know, people think I'm nuts. But, you know, I'm going to say it again. I hate the fact that Munguia is on the DAZN platform, because from day one, Sergio Mora has had issues with Munguia, because let's be honest, Sergio Mora is not a real Mexican. He's never been respected by the Mexican community when it comes to boxing, unlike Munguia. Munguia is building a very large fan base, bigger than the Charlos, bigger than Andrade's. He's got a fan base that's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And he's always trying to point out Munguia's shortcomings. He ignores the things that Munguia does. But when Munguia just basically started pounding this guy, you know, I mean, this guy had to be pissing blood for the next 2 weeks. But there was no question to me on the decision, you know, just because the guy gave him a tough fight, you know, didn't mean he came. I didn't even have it close in rounds. It was all Munguia to me, and the scorecards reflected that. Yeah.
So we're talking about, obviously, Takashi Inoue, who was fighting Tim Tszyu. When is the fight? November 17th. And I believe that's on like a Wednesday or something like that.
Yeah, it's November 17th. I believe
it's a Wednesday in Australia. The last several Tim Tszyu fights, they've been known to be midweek fights.
Is this going to be another 2 a.m. thing?
Well, of course, yeah. It's going to be another probably between 3 and 4 a.m. our time, and it'll be
now. Is there going to be people in attendance? Because I know Australia. Not to get off the subject, but my wife, she has a good friend from her school that she went to that lives in Australia, and they correspond. They talk to each other constantly. Australia's just been put under a severe martial law. The military just declared war against the people. This thing is getting ugly in Australia.
Well, it's not that way in Perth, which is on the East Coast. Yeah. No, the West Coast.
Because I am talking about Melbourne.
Melbourne, which is in Victoria, which is on the south. That's where it's happening now. In the northern states of New South Wales and Queensland, they're under a restricted, or more of a abbreviated lockdown. Not as bad as Melbourne, but they're allowed to, obviously commerce and whatever. But they are experiencing some very, very totalitarian style government there. It's horrible. Man. But either way, the fight is signed November 17th. On the Gold Coast, which is a resort community. I've never been, but I hear the Gold Coast is absolutely stunning. and the fight's going to take place on like a Wednesday. So that's great for us. I mean, we got to wake up early, but nothing like a good scrap midweek, right?
Yeah, I mean, and you can't ask for better, because you obviously know I don't see in a way changing anything that he did in the Munguia fight against Tim Tszyu. Being that Tim Tszyu a smaller guy, they're about equal in stature, both about 5'8". Obviously, in a way, he's going to look the sturdier of the two, because he's got that chiseled physique, but he doesn't have that big monstrous punch that Tszyu does possess. Maybe not Munguia punch, but he's right there. I mean, and he's a guy too that's kind of moving into his man strength. I'm definitely leaning towards Tszyu, but I think this is going to have moments where Tszyu can't kind of get in those lackadaisical moments that he does sometimes.
Pulling straight back and
yeah, he's going to have to just really turn it on like he does, sit down on his punches and just handle business. And if Tszyu's able to get him out of there, this really makes a statement in the 154-pound division, and people better wake up.
I got to be honest with you. This is a fight that, in my opinion, is a fight you have to give all credit to Tszyu, his team, and for the confidence that they're displaying. He has already said he is training for this fight to be physically the hardest fight he's ever had. He's training this fight focusing on strength because he knows how strong Inoue is. But there's a fight he didn't have to take. I mean, he's the mandatory number one, right? Mandatory. He's been, right? He's the mandatory for Brian Castano's title. But he's electing to stay busy. He understands that fight can't happen right now. So you got to love the kid. You got to love the kid's work rate and ethic. He continues to fight even under these restrictions and lockdowns and navigating the minefield that is this pandemic. He continues to fight, and he's fighting better and better opposition. He fought, former world champion Jeff Horn. He fought former uncrowned champion Dennis Hogan. Either way, it's going to be a very exciting fight. And like you said, AJ, if Tszyu goes out there and just destroys Inoue, that says a lot. I personally think the fight, Tszyu has to be ready for a long, hard, grueling fight.
Yeah, he does. He does.
And if he goes out there and takes this guy out and 4 to 6 rounds, I will be very shocked, pleasantly surprised, because I'm a huge fan of Tim Tszyu. I see this fight going some rounds.
He's part of our little internal camp, our little new faces. Back in the day with Ring Book Magazine, they used to run a section that was new faces. It was the new guy that was coming up, in the rankings and stuff.
And you and I were the only boxing channel out there on YouTube talking about this guy.
Just like everybody else, Pandora.
Yeah, everybody else is late to the party. Everybody else jumps on the bandwagon after he beat Jeff Horn and Dennis Hogan. But we were saying it 3 fights prior. You got to watch this kid. You got to watch him. Well, in the manner in which he fights, how aggressive he is. He's calculated aggression and patient for a young fighter.
Patient, man.
Patient. Well, he got a little impatient against Stevie Sparks. That's because
Stevie Sparks was a firecracker. I got to say this right now, and I'm not trying to get off topic, but I got a lot of respect for Stevie Sparks. I think that's a kid who can make some waves in the welterweight division. I took my hat off for the fact he went in there and he took this fight for the people. He risked his record. He risked his life getting it with Tszyu. Went toe-to-toe and did what he had to do. Tszyu ultimately did what he did, you know what I'm saying, because he's the bigger guy and he performed like the bigger guy. But, Tim Tszyu, to me, he's in that same realm with Munguia. Very impressionable, humble, nice. The kind of guy that opens up the door for ladies that walk by him, gives kisses to them.
But he does have, you could see he's got that mean streak in him.
Just like his dad. His dad had that inner demon that you go back and watch Costa Tszyu's fight against Zab Judah. There was so much bullshit, something that Costa Tszyu wasn't used to, how they disrespected this man. And he went in there and he just handled it. I guarantee you, on the Japanese side, Japanese tend to talk a little bit. And I guarantee you there's a lot of chatter going on in Japan of what Inoue is going to do to this inexperienced Tim Tszyu, that he's not Costas. Tim Tszyu, I think, comes in here peaked, ready to perform, and basically puts on a masterful destruction of Inoue. And at that point, it's going to be really hard to sell the fight with Castano or anybody else, because I don't see anybody wanting to jump on there. I think Tim Tszyu's next opponent is probably going to be Sebastian Fandora, which I hate to see. But you got to take whatever out there if the champions are going to run for you. And I guarantee you, Castano and Charlo are running to the hills.
I don't think Tszyu's going to fight Fandora, only because after this fight, he's like, okay, I've fought now 2 fights in the interim since I've been declared the mandatory. I want my title shot. And if you're not willing to make the fight, we go to purse bid. Main events. No, what is it called out there? It's called No Limit in Australia. The promotion, Ben Rose's promotion. They put up a shit ton of money. They bring that fight across the pond. They make it in Australia, and guess what? They have no choice to fight him. They will have no choice.
Yeah, absolutely. But like
give
I said,
him his shot, and win, lose or draw, the kid has earned his shot.
Well, since we're on the subject, why don't you go ahead? You want to throw a little prediction out there? Since what are you thinking?
What for the zoo fight?
For the zoo fight.
Oh, I said it. I said I think it's going to be. I said it's going to go some rounds. I'm guessing maybe it's going to go probably at least 6 rounds. I think if Zoo gets him out of there, it might be a little bit late, maybe after 6. But in a way, is going to be bringing that pressure, and he's got a granite chin. So I think Tim's going to have to break him down.
Yeah, exactly. And when you look at the 154-pound weight class, this is a hotbed. This isn't like what the lightweight division is suffering through right now. You obviously got champions up there like Jamal Charlo, who recently won his controversial, which I have to be honest with you, I thought Brian Castano pulled it out. Myself personally,
I did too. A lot of people did. Most people did.
Yeah, you got Tim Tszyu up there. Then you got Korbanov, who I feel lost that fight against Liam Smith. A lot of people probably beg to differ, but I feel he lost it, and I watched it.
He lost that fight. Liam Smith got jobbed in that fight.
Exactly. You got Erickson Lubin. You got it could be possibly Tim Tszyu and Liam Smith. That'd be another great one. You got Brian Adams. It kind of cools down a little bit right there, as you can see.
Yeah. Well, Liam Smith is now signed to fight. He's fighting the other his countryman. What's his name? Liam Smith is fighting. I just saw the press conference.
I got it right here. Anthony
Fowler. Yeah.
Yeah, a tough guy. I've seen Fowler fight a couple times just like this.
And Liam Smith doesn't like him. He was very uncharacteristic in that press conference. Refused to shake his hand. And Liam Smith, he's not known for that.
Yeah, I mean, you saw it too. I mean, Liam Smith. I mean, what else you got to say about the guy? I'm gonna try to get off topic here, but I just want to give a little credit where credit's due, because he's one of those guys that belong in that club. This is a guy who's fought Canelo Alvarez, Jaime Munguia, went to Russia and fought Korbanov. You name it.
Here's another thing that I'm seeing. And if we could just jump back to the Munguia subject for a second, I've been reading so much stuff, and even seeing boxing journalists and writers saying Munguia has yet to face a world-class opponent. And I say to myself, Liam Smith is not a world-class opponent. Liam Smith, 2 fights previous, was fighting Canelo Alvarez in front of 50,000 plus people at Arlington Stadium.
I guess the champion that he won the title from wasn't top grade. Turiano Johnson, who couldn't get a fight, who did everything, he was ready to sell his home and sell his business to get a fight with Charlo, couldn't get the fight. Spike O'Sullivan, who had just fought for a world title. I mean, come on, man.
It's just there's a lot of hate out there, and I don't understand it. Yesterday, the guy was a world-class fighter. Now he's not a world-class fighter. They're just doing everything in their power to discredit Munguia, and it really is sad, because he's such a great kid. But
let's be honest. They want to get rid of the Eastern European champions, and they don't want any Mexican champions in the middleweight division. They want the Andrades and they want the Charlos. I'm not trying to cause a race war here, but it is what it is. They want guys stateside. They want guys who are going to basically do what they want them to do. Munguia's got a huge fan base, and they don't want to see a reincarnation of Canelo, a guy who go in there and just steal all your promotion right from under you and stuff by putting on an event wherever the hell he wants to put it on, especially if he puts it on Cinco de Mayo weekend, which I think this is all going to culminate to. But, we'll see what happens.
Let's go ahead and talk about the big one that's coming up, and that's a week from, 6 days from now. So this week should be ramping up. We are talking about the trilogy taking place Saturday, October the 9th at the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas. Tyson Fury, the Gypsy King, is defending his title, WBC and lineal title, against Deontay Wilder in the trilogy, a fight that was postponed from July because Fury tested positive for COVID. I don't know if you've seen any of the promotion, any of the videos, or the fight camp, that whatever they call this little show that they're putting on. The promotion has been very, very minimal for this fight, which I do not understand.
I don't think they have to sell it. I don't think they have to sell it. I think we're Trilla. I don't know where they spent $10 million, because I didn't see one goddamn commercial with Kambosos and Teofimo Lopez. I don't know what they spent it on, maybe on hookers and blow. I don't know.
Yeah.
But you don't have to sell this fight. All they got to do is put the date out there and stuff. Everybody knows it's going to happen. I think if this fight suffers in the pay-per-view, it's only because people feel and see what we've already seen for quite a while. And that is, nothing has changed in the Deontay Wilder's camp. Yeah. And the outcome's going to probably be even much worse than it was last time. But I'll go ahead and let you keep. Don't say what you're saying, bro.
No, I want you to go ahead. I think you created a little bullet point presentation that you were going to talk about this. Go ahead and let's just jump right in there because I mean,
Sure.
I'll just parlay off of the points that you've made, and I think they were really good points.
Okay, so I don't know if you guys can see that. Is that good for you guys?
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay, so 3 major points going into this matchup with this third fight with Tyson Fury, and I'm not even going to talk on the Tyson Fury aspect. Number 1. For Deontay Wilder, the fight plan. When I say the fight plan is what the trainer and their camp are focused on in order to make corrections and do all the right things in order for him to be successful in this matchup against Tyson Fury. Basically erase all the mistakes, put some positive moves that can basically trip up Tyson Fury and whatever, fight plan he has. The problem is it starts with the body, the mind, and the soul. I'm not even going to talk about the mental state. That's on my third one. But I've noticed a lot of upper body. You could tell that Deontay Wilder, if he has put on weight, which is just a little bit, he's always kind of been light in the ass, it's to his upper body. My wife always talks about the chicken legs and stuff, drives him crazy. The reason why I said this 2 fights ago, that they need to start focusing on Deontay Wilder's lower body was when you have a guy the size of Tyson Fury coming at you, if you don't got those legs and that strength to stop him in his
to match him in the middle of the ring,
to at least be able to be formidable, to at least be a challenge. Deontay Wilder, I wish that the fight with Alexander Usyk and Joshua was a few weeks earlier. That would have been the perfect game plan. The things that Usyk did, as far as with his weight and the way he performed, is the way Deontay Wilder should do against Tyson Fury. So I mean, like I said, with the upper body strength and not just their fight plan, there's no changes. We know what Deontay Wilder is going to do. He's going to go in there and he's going to focus on the punch. Number 2, the trainer change. I know there was a lot of criticism put on Mark Breland for what I considered a life-changing decision to stop the fight when Deontay Wilder was losing to Tyson Fury. We know Deontay Wilder would rather go out on his shield, but let's be honest, there was no victory in sight for him at that point. When you look at a guy like Mark Breland, a guy who went 115-1 as an amateur, several Pan Am Games, also went on to win the gold medal, went on to become a welterweight champion of the world. The one thing that Mark Breland did institute in Deontay Wilder, and if you watch the second fight, he stressed it because he stressed it so much in the first one, that was the jab. In order for Deontay to get that right hand off, he's got to set that jab. That jab's got to be a weapon. It's got to be a measuring stick. You just can't go in there and throw wild right hands. They're telegraphed. And even somebody as slow as the Gypsy King is going to avoid those missiles. So the decision of going to Malik Scott, who was a former victim, a guy who had a mediocre career himself, I just don't see where it's an advantage for Deontay Wilder. I think it's another yes man in his corner that he.
That's all it is. That's all he is the yes man.
Yeah, he doesn't need that. Now the last one, and this is the one that just kind of like, you can erase the first 2 and just go with this. And that's the mental state of Deontay Wilder. Has Wilder accepted the loss to Tyson Fury? I know some people say, well, if you accept the loss and you accept that you're a loser. No, you accept that you are not Superman. You made a mistake. He was your kryptonite. But even Superman was able to overcome kryptonite at times. So you have to figure out, what do I got to do to beat this man? I tell you what you got to do. You keep that jab in his face. I know Tyson Fury's the bigger man. Go back and watch Alexander Usyk and Joshua. Usyk out-jabbed Joshua, who's the bigger man. Deontay Wilder has a very well-schooled jab. Keeps that in there, side-to-side movement. When Fury comes in there with that bull rush and try to push you against the ropes and stuff, act like a matador.
Yeah.
Swipe off to the thing. It's called slash and dash. That's it, man. Slash and dash all day. There are ways that Deontay could win this fight, but it all starts with Deontay telling himself, does he want to win this fight? And has he gotten over whatever happened last time, all the excuses that were made going up to this fight coming up right here. Now, on the other side, before, I'll let you jump in here. Tyson Fury, I know a lot of it is just talk. That's the way Tyson Fury, but I honestly think he's true when he says these things. I don't think Tyson Fury looks at Deontay Wilder like he is a serious challenge, because his people are telling him, you took his best. You got up. You were dropped 2 times in the first fight. You never took anything in the second fight. Just go back and do what you did. He doesn't hit that hard. But I don't think what Tyson Fury realizes, if he goes back and looks at that 12th round, that right hand that Deontay landed was not his right hand. He wasn't even set in it. So does Deontay have the ability to knock out Tyson Fury? Absolutely. Will he do it? It depends on if he's able to set it up and put Tyson Fury in the proper position in order to release that power.
In my opinion, he has to try to, what I think he's got to try to tire Tyson Fury out. He's got to try to, like, if when Tyson Fury tries to use those leaning, hugging tactics like he did in the second fight, because of his sheer size, because he bulked up to near 270, what did he weigh, 260 something, 270 on fight night. I think Wilder needs to avoid all of that, because that, like you said, because of the lack of strength he possesses in the lower body, that will physically wear him out again. He has to avoid that. If that means that you have to, like I said, be the matador, and in so many ways, I don't want to use the term run, but use all 20 feet of that ring. Every time he comes at you, just back up. Don't back straight up, back up, get off the line, go left, go right, whatever. Like you said, like a matador, let him come and move. Try to tire that big man out. Try to tire him out. You're not going to tire him out. Yeah, you will not tire him out if Fury's allowed to get in, hold you, throw punches on the clinch, just rough you up on the inside, lean on you, all that stuff. That will spell doom and defeat for Wilder. But if he's able to move, use that ring, pop that jab. I saw Malik Scott doing things like, working on the feints and stuff. The feints aren't going to fool Tyson Fury.
No.
You need to, here's how you beat Tyson Fury. You catch him coming in with a counter right hand.
Exactly.
You counter him.
Dash, like I said.
Get out of the range and boom, let him walk into a punch, kind of like what Rosado did to Beck the Bully. Something similar to that. A lot of people might not think that Deontay is capable of countering punching, but he is, because if you look at his fight against Luis Ortiz, it was a perfectly timed right hand counter. They said he had set it up. It took him 8-9 rounds to get it, but once he threw that one shot, the fight was over.
Yeah.
Can he do it though? And a lot of it is his mental state. I don't think he has the game plan. I think what we're saying right now is completely foreign to them. They think they're going to go in there, and he thinks he's going to go in there and just, bum rush and bully and knock Tyson Fury out because he's going to prove I'm the big macho guy on the block. Not going to happen.
I'll tell you, where Deontay Wilder, the only chance that I see him doing is him establishing himself. If he allows Tyson Fury to get in a rhythm, if he allows Tyson Fury to dictate how the fight's going to be fought, that means pushing Deontay Wilder from corner to corner like a pinball, leaning on him like he did last time. You're absolutely right. Tiring out Tyson Fury. The easiest way to tire out a big guy is not allow him to go forward, make him turn. Everybody knows that physical wise, it's less effort to take a step forward than it is to turn your body. Make Tyson turn, cut the ring off, move, make Tyson have to fight at angles, hit him, move to the other side, hit him, do whatever you got to do. Make him come after him.
Even if you're just touching him, just touch him, touch him, because he really only has a one punch chance of winning this fight, but he's got to set it up. He's not just going to go in there and land.
Yeah. But that's where Deontay Wilder has an advantage. The one thing that Malik Scott hasn't emphasized is Deontay Wilder is a rarity in boxing that you only see in a few fighters. He's an athlete. He's a guy that has physical athleticism. He's natural. He's got natural athleticism. He's a better athlete than Tyson Fury. It's just Tyson Fury just fights. It's just a better boxer. Yeah. That's just the way it is. But if Deontay goes in there and does the fundamentals, the things that he's been taught, the things that made him successful, keep the jab out there, keep that long range. But when he attacks, attack. None of this bullshit, none of this weaning shit. You know what I'm saying? This is a guy who fought in the Olympics. You know what you need to do. And when the hell are they going to, what happened to the uppercut that was so well educated that Mark Breland worked with them, that was so successful against fighters like Bernie Stavern and Luis Ortiz? I haven't seen Wilder throw an uppercut in 2 fights.
Or a left hook.
Nothing.
He doesn't possess a left hook.
And I guarantee you're going to hear the same excuses. I said it in my podcast today. You may see, if this fight ends out bad for Deontay Wilder, and if he ends on his back again, you may have seen with his mental state, you may have seen the last of Deontay Wilder in professional boxing.
Well, that's what Big John Fury, Tyson's father, I saw an interview with him, and he's saying this is it. When my son knocks him out this time, Deontay will never fight again. He'll never fight again. I mean,
but on the other side, like I'm going to say, Tyson's got to stay focused. He's got to understand that Deontay does possess the tools to hurt him. For him to say nothing he's going to do to me is going to hurt me. Bullshit. He's already
Well,
good.
when is he said? When is he? Has he said that?
Yes, constantly.
I mean, if he's saying that, I mean, that's
What
just him
he's
talking because
basing it.
he
I know.
knows because every time I see him talk, he says, yeah, he's all. Everybody know the bronze bomber's got the one big punch, but can he land that one big punch?
Exactly.
Yeah, he knows he can get hurt by that punch. It dropped him twice in the first fight, and like you said, they weren't the cleanest of right hands. They weren't flush like on the chin, like when he caught.
No, yeah, but Deontay's knocked out so many opponents. So many more have been knocked out with his left hook, his uppercut, with so many other punches that he's just completely abandoned. He needs to build his repertoire again. He can't just go out there and look like an amateur, like slingshotting these right hands. It's a complete joke. Tyson's gonna go, okay, that one now. Okay, here we go. So I don't see it myself well personally for Deontay Wilder. I think Tyson Fury ends him in even more dramatic fashion and even earlier part of the fight than last time.
So you're saying that's your prediction? You're saying earlier a stoppage?
Oh, yeah. I don't see it going 5 rounds. I don't see it going 5 rounds. And I don't see Deontay Wilder getting knocked out. I see him quitting on the stool. I think he'll have a complete Oliver McCall, just breakdown. He's done.
Or maybe like a Mike Tyson break, where he just breaks down and starts fighting dirty or something, especially if he's getting frustrated. Yeah. I see Tyson Fury. I mean, this is the tale of two fights. I mean, I'll give my prediction now, but after the first and second round, if the fight goes past that, I'll be able to get pretty much a better gauge on how I think the fight's going to go. But obviously, obviously we're, for the sake of making a prediction, I'm going to say Tyson Fury, like you said, stops him in 6 rounds or less. Or, I'm going to say, no, I take that back. I'm going to say 8 rounds or less. I'm going to give Deontay a little bit more credit because he did take a lot of punches in that last fight and was hurt and wobbled. And, and although he did go down a couple of times, there was a lot of times he got hit. And I thought, how did he not go down with that one? But I think the sheer will of the man is, he does have a strong will. So we'll see.
Well, you know what?
But I say Tyson Fury is going to win this fight in 8 rounds or less.
My wife was talking about
maybe
a movie.
6 to 8.
My wife was talking about a movie last night. She watched Charlie and the Chocolate Factory with Johnny Depp.
Oh God,
this is going to make sense. And she said, God, it was such a horrible movie. It didn't make sense because it didn't remind me nothing of the original. I said, you know why, babe? Because in an interview, Johnny Depp said prior to him, even when he was making the movie, he had never even watched the original. So how can you expect? It's real simple. It's just like in law. You look at what the most obvious thing is. Go back and look at Tyson Fury's most recent bad performance against Otto Wallin. And what Wallin was able to do, he was able to stand his ground against Tyson Fury. When he got Tyson's back against the ropes, he went up and down the ladder. Okay? It's right there. Tyson Fury doesn't like to be roughed up. He acts like a rough tumble guy, but you get him in a rough fight and he starts tasting his blood. He turns into a totally different fighter. That's what Deontay Wilder's got to do. Even if he gets a points deduction, stand your ground. If you let this man push you from rope to rope, it's sayonara. Yeah,
that's what we said starting this prediction out. He can't allow himself to be physically manhandled like in the second fight. He's got to stay away from him. Yeah. He's got to box and counter. And a lot of people are going, Deontay Wilder's got to box and win the fight. You're crazy. Well, a lot of people thought we were crazy last week when we said Usyk can outbox Anthony Joshua. I'm not saying he's going to outbox Tyson Fury, but he's got to box him just enough to try to land that nice big straight right counter and land it flush.
Exactly.
On the chin with Tyson Fury coming in. That's how he wins this fight.
Now, there's some other fights on that card too. Am I right, bro?
It's a lot. There's actually some really good fights, intriguing fights. We have the rematch between Robert Helenius and Adam Kovnatsky. Mm-hmm. I love Robert Helenius, but Robert Helenius to me is he's like a claimer in the horse racing industry.
You just never know.
You just never know how did he feel today when he woke up? Did he eat up all his oats? Is he feeling good? Is he ready to run? We never know with Helenius. There's another guy who mentally is just so fragile and shattered. Like he was a world beater 4 years ago, and then a series of injuries and stuff. And then the guy, you're like, where did the will to win disappear to? Against Gerald Washington. I mean, that fight was so hard to watch.
Yeah. Helenius is one of those guys that just continues to break your heart because he's got the physical size, he's got the skills, he's got the boxing abilities. He just doesn't have it mentally. Yeah.
The other big fight on that card is Efe Ajagba's fighting Frank Sanchez, the Cuban fighter who trains with the Reynosos down in San Diego with Canelo Alvarez. Very intriguing fight. I got to be honest with you, man. The fact when I saw that this fight was made, I said, wow, this is really a step up for both guys. technically they're both still prospects. Ajagba we know has that big punch. I don't think Sanchez has the power of Ajagba, but I believe he's a better boxer than Ajagba. Ajagba's a little bit like Deontay Wilder, a little bit one-dimensional.
Yeah.
But has sheer physical strength and a really strong punch. There's another heavyweight fight on that card, right? Or
there's actually quite a few. But I think one of the things
Berlanga's fighting right on this card as well.
Yeah, you got you got Rolly Ramirez, who got thrown on the card, obviously.
Rolly Romero.
No, I'm sorry. Roberto Ramirez, the guy who won the gold
Robeisy.
Romero. I'm sorry. He's fighting against Orlando Gonzalez Ruiz, undefeated guy, 17-0. You got to give it to Ramirez, a guy who loses his pro debut. Highly talented coming in. This is what I'm talking about, the mental state. He didn't allow that one loss to destroy where he went. He's been nothing but positive and amazing since that point. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So take your hats on him. You got Edward Berlanga going up against a guy named I don't even know who the hell this guy is. A guy who's coming in with us. 30-2 record. Marcelo Caceres. Are you kidding me? He's gonna fight Caceres?
I don't even know who that is, but
you know who Caceres is. Caceres is the one that he fought Billy Joe Saunders. Saunders knocked him out some time ago. He's a guy who's tough, who gets in there and rumbles and tough, but he's got no chin. He's got no power.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens there.
Yeah. Berlanga is another guy who a lot of the shine is off the guy now because of the fact that he went, 10 rounds or however many rounds he went the distance with I don't know.
Yeah. You got Julian.
I'm not sold on that guy at all.
You got Julian J. Rock Williams fighting against Vladimir Hernandez. That's going to be an interesting match.
So there's a lot of fights on this card, and this is a pay-per-view, right?
Yeah.
Francis
Bartholomew.
This is very well worth the money, I believe.
Oh, absolutely. But getting back real quick, if we could just talk briefly about the Frank Sanchez Efe Ajagba fight. I know a lot of people are leaning towards Sanchez just because of the fact that he's the more polished boxer. Maybe he doesn't have the power that Ajagba has, but he does have power. But there's that one fight in particular that Ajagba fought in that stands out to me. And that was his fight against Jonathan Rice, a guy who recently beat a guy who a lot of people are really high on, a guy who Frank Sanchez avoided, and Michael Coffey.
Yeah.
Ajagba pretty much handled Rice. He won a decision, over Rice, but it was a totally different fight than what Rice did against Michael Coffey, who I honestly thought out of all three guys was the more talented guy.
Yeah. Yeah. So, he just had a real bad performance in that fight.
Yeah,
all credit to Rice though,
Rice, credit. Yeah. And then Ajagba looked absolutely devastating in his last fight against Brian Howard, a very sturdy, tough guy, who came in with the will to win, and Ajagba just landed.
It was like a highlight
Jones
reel knockout
punch. Yeah. Now on the other side with Frank Sanchez, you got a guy that comes in, obviously he's a Renault. So, you're going to get that arrogance. He's got a lot of arrogance coming in. It's just part of what they are. His fight against Nagni Aguilera was not impressive. This is a guy who was a victim to guys like Deontay Wilder and stuff. He's a workhorse that's been around for a while.
Yeah, he did not look good.
No, and the same thing against everybody made such a big deal about his victory over Julian Fernandez. I thought to myself, I didn't see it. Now, he also fought Brian Howard, who that's their common opponent. He knocked him out one round longer than Ajagba did. But it wasn't in that devastating fashion. So, when you really look at it, Ajagba's fought, I think, the better competition. If Ajagba goes in there and stays composed, doesn't put himself in a situation, doesn't allow Sanchez to kind of to pepper him with those little shots that he does and frustrate him, kind of do the things that Deontay should be doing in his fight, use that jab and use that beautiful right hand and stuff. And I think it might go plus side for Ajagba. I'm going with him.
Well, it's going to be a good fight, man. It's going to, and I believe, I don't believe this venue's nowhere near sold out. I do believe that you can, if you're in the area, if you make the drive to Vegas, you could still get probably a pretty decent seat. I don't know what the minimum ticket prices are, but that's a fight that, if I was in Vegas, heading to Vegas this weekend, I would definitely go try to see these fights. Cause like you said, it's not just one good fight on the card. There's multiple good fights and intriguing fights on the card. So,
and how did Julian J. Rock Williams end up being almost like an opener for the event? Come on, this guy was a champion not even that long ago.
Yeah, that's what happens, man. That's what happens.
Boxing,
like I said, you looked at Ray Beltran, who 2 fights ago was a world champion, and now he's fighting on a local club show in Glendale, Arizona. not getting paid anywhere near what he was paid for his, his title win and then his defeat to Richard Comey.
So I know we're getting close to the end right here and stuff like this.
Yeah.
But real quick, I want to talk about a fight because he's been such a presence lately on DAZN. And on the 30th, Dillian White's going up against the guy whose only loss was to Tyson Fury and Otto Wallin. I think a very interesting matchup. I think a very winnable fight for Otto Wallin, and I think it could spell the end of contender status for Dillian White. What do you think?
Dillian White doesn't impress me at all. I'm not impressed with his knockout of Povetkin a few months back. Povetkin, they got him listed as 40 years old. He's been 40 years old for the last 5 years.
Yeah.
Povetkin to me is a completely shot fighter. And then the fact that one fight prior, he knocked Dillian White cold with one shot. Dillian White to me has never been impressive. To me, Dillian White and Derek Chisora are interchangeable. They're both one-dimensional, big physically tough guys with very limited skills, very limited boxing skills. And of the two, I think Chisora's got the better chin than the two.
Absolutely.
and a better resume, even though most of his big fights he's lost. I mean, every big fight Chisora's ever in, he loses. But whatever. But I mean, no disrespect. I don't mean that in a harsh way, but I'm just being honest. Dillian White to me is nothing. Dillian White to me is just a big mouth. He's just a big mouth Brit who's been riding the coattails of his. Well, I hurt Anthony Joshua in my fight. Yeah, but you got knocked out in 6 rounds, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, close only counts in horseshoes and hand grenades, right?
Well, I tell you, it's become, my wife's gotten to the point to where she can't even watch fights from the UK. She's like, why do they think that they're so this or whatever? I got to say, there's a fight that we didn't talk about today, and we'll close out on this. A guy who's really resurged his career, and I'm pretty high on right now, and that's David Avanesian. Scored a shocking another victory over a guy who was one of these UK hotshots with the second round stoppage of undefeated Liam Taylor. Just before that, he had stopped Josh Kelly. This is a guy, like I said, I mean, who's just continuing to look better and better. Is it just me, or do you get confused with all the Josh Kellys, Josh Taylors, Liam Smith, Liam Taylor, Liam Williams? I get so goddamn confused. Can you Brit stop naming your kids Josh and Liam? God damn it. Isn't there any other names out there you can name them? Everything's Liam and Josh and I know, man. It just drives me nuts. But one of the things that he did after the end of the fight, I thought was really interesting. And I had actually saved the video on it, but I forgot to load it up today. And that was, he called out a guy who's a big mouth. And that person is Conor Benn. He's been wanting Conor Benn. I'm going to tell you now, they're going to make this matchup happen. And I'm going to go with Avanesian just based on who he's fought. I mean, the guy's doing everything right. I was showing my wife when he was fighting against Liam Smith. His counterattack and the way that he was doing it, he throws a perfect Mike Tyson-ish, walking up the ladder type uppercut and stuff, was doing everything right. He baited Taylor to think that he was going to continue with that right hook and then baited him in and took him with the left hook. The guy's resurged his career. You got to take your hat off to him. And I think he's going to put himself right back there in serious contender situation.
Yeah. No, you're right. You're right. Avanesian is a tough guy, man. And it was we kind of glossed over it. It was a smaller card that took place. It was on Sky Sports. It wasn't on DAZN, right? It was on Sky. So I don't have that Sky platform, but good for him. And another one of these, one of these prospects, these UK prospects, kind of gets exposed like Campbell Hatton did the week before, on the undercard of the Usyk fight,
Well, a lot of them did. And the thing that really got me on this thing was you listen to the platform, you listen to their commentators.
They're myopic. They're completely myopic.
Oh my God. They're talking to Liam Taylor like this is going to be an easy fight for him and stuff. And then as soon as Avanesian wins the fight, it's like, well, this is maybe too big of a step for Liam Taylor.
Oh, they're the masters. They're the ultimate spin doctors. They're the ultimate spin doctors. The announcers on Sky and even on what's the other one? Box Nation and everything. They're very. I mean, obviously, I get it. They're going to support their fighters, but boxing is a universal sport. You got to give credit to the fighters coming in. I mean, like the Warrington fight a few months back, and then the rematch, and I don't know.
I'm going to send you the video. Did you see when they talked to Ricky Hatton about his sons?
No, I did not see that.
I like that Ricky was very straightforward and said, you know what? I think my son lost. I think he was very fortunate that he got the decision. I think he's got a lot of work to do. He kept it the way he kept it real. And I appreciate that. He didn't sit here and try to gloss over and shit and say like this. It's unfortunate for, Sonny Martinez, but I mean, it's just the way it is in boxing.
Well, yeah, it's a complete opposite of what someone like someone like a not Nigel Benn, who's the other one?
Or Eubanks.
Eubanks would say.
Yeah.
Chris Eubanks would be completely the opposite, and he brash, braggadocious, conceited. There's a distinct difference between fighters like Hatton and fighters like Eubanks, and
Yeah.
So,
but I still think the kid, with some work, we'll see what happens, But
I mean, there's nothing to hate about the kid, but he did lose that fight.
Yeah.
He lost that damn near almost every round, but he was hurt multiple times in that fight.
Yeah, exactly.
Note to fighters from anywhere around Spain, Portugal, don't take that money and go across and fight in England, because you're going to rip you off.
Oh, I got a better thing. If you're a fighter from the UK and you see that person's that they've been fighting or training out of Spain, he's probably working in the same location, the same part as Sergio Martinez. You might want to steer clear of that guy, because you saw it in this guy. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
This guy came in with a 2-4 record, and this guy didn't look like a 2-4 record.
Yeah, 2-4 fighter, right?
Yep.
Right. All right, bro. So, hey, listen, we're about 10 minutes after 7. We're going to go ahead and shut this episode down. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. We'll be back on Tuesday, hopefully, to talk about some more developments with this Kambosos situation. I hope. Let's hope that we have some kind of clarity on this, because for George Kambosos, I just feel so bad for the kid.
Yeah.
Boxing can't allow this injustice to stand. Either way, we'll just end it on that. Let's just hope the boxing gods work their magic and Kambosos gets what's rightfully his. And that's either a shot at the title or just hand him the damn belts. You're handing him to Devin Haney and you're handing him to freaking Rolly Romero. Hand one to George Kambosos, who's actually willing to get out there and fight a top guy.
The only plus for Kambosos is the boxing gods are going to shine on him, and the hardcore fans are going to side with him and stuff and start to turn their back on Teofimo Lopez. And this
they already
is a pivotal moment in both of their careers. We're going to see what's going to happen, and we'll dive deeper into that on our next show.
Got it. So, hey, everybody, thanks for tuning in. As we said, Eric the Red couldn't make it today. He's working his business tonight, but thanks for tuning in. We'll be back on Tuesday. 6 o'clock? We're going to stick to 6 p.m. now on the West Coast. Thanks for tuning in. For your hosts, Mighty Mike
and AJ Rage.
That was Enter the Ring Live.